Welcome to the Journey Home program. My name is Marcus Grodi, your host for this weekly program, when I have the great privilege of introducing to you men and women. Because of their great love for Jesus Christ, we're drawn home to the Catholic Church. They all have different journeys, and that's what we like to hear on the Journey Home program. When we see the variety of the ways that the Lord has touched people's lives, we see that, in fact, God can touch anyone. And so we pray for that grace to touch our lives, to draw us closer to Him. Well, we're coming to you in this special edition of the Journey Home from Maynooth, Ireland. We're here in St. Patrick's Seminary. We're in one of the boardrooms, and we're here with Eileen Reid, and she's here to tell her story. Those of you in America might not be as familiar with her, but some in Ireland will recognize her from her work in the entertainment industry. So Eileen, welcome to the Journey Home program.
Hello, Mark. It's great to be here.
It's great to be here, and thank you. You flew in from Spain, is that right?
I did, yes. I'm living in Spain now since January.
Okay.
So,
but you're a native of Ireland.
Oh, right? Born in the heart of the Liberties, down where the Vikings came in on the ship, up Wood Quay, and in the buildings, flats, they'd call them. You call them probably apartments, and they were called buildings, the flats in those days. So
now, when you say that the Liberties, is that a unique place in Dublin, unique section of
the
Ireland?
Liberties? They're just in the middle of the heart of
Caribbean, okay. The
Dublin.
old city,
yeah,
you would
say?
Yeah,
the old part, you know. So it was great. And I was born there in 1943.
All right.
So you know my age now.
Well, usually in the program, the first thing we do for the first section of the program is ask you to fill in your background, spiritual background. Where'd you come from spiritually?
Spiritually, when we were young, I mean, there was seven children in the family, the mum and dad, and
we assume brought up Catholic, right?
Oh, we were all brought up Catholics, yeah. But you know, the women, the mothers were so busy then. There was she made sure we went to mass on Sunday, and we didn't say the rosary or anything like that. If you want to do that yourself, do. But I think the odd time we had a pair of rosary beads, but it wasn't. You didn't have to do it or anything like that. And then when you're going out in the morning to school, and you say, "Now don't forget and bless yourself," and say, "Oh, angel of God, my guardian dear," you know that one, the little thing. But that was it. And she never sat down, and because my mother really, in a way, was as ignorant as we were. It wasn't sort of the faith was being handed down all right. How it lasted, I suppose, because there weren't being, there was no formation sort of thing, you know. And
more just the culture of the environment.
You believe in God and you were baptized and go over to mass and that's it. But no one sat down and told us stories about anything. And all I knew was Jesus was born in a stable. He was crucified and he died on the cross and he rose from the dead. And we didn't know what the incarnation was about. We didn't know what. No one. You wouldn't have been able to tell. Even when I was in 17, I probably wouldn't have been able to tell anyone what. So you didn't go into. You didn't think you had to get that. There was no Bibles. You never heard anyone talking about a Bible. And I think it was only Protestants actually read Bibles. So I don't know what they were trying. I think when I look back now in the faith, I think the church were actually trying to keep the faith from us. I don't know why they were. The only time that we, of course, then the churches were packed. You know, they really were packed in the 50s when I was younger. And the only time that there was a bit of excitement was when the missionaries would come, you know. It was on for the week. The mission was on for the week. And he was up there, brimstone, if you don't do this, you'll go to hell and blah, blah, blah. It was all hell. You were afraid of your life. But nobody spoke about the love of God. You know what I mean? The people were sort of frightened into being good. You know what I mean? And instead of saying, look, it's all right. All we want to tell you is God loves you. He died for you. He wants you to have eternal happiness. Try and go home and think of that for a week. Eternal happiness. You won't even be able to get your mind around it. You know what I mean? You're only here for a wet day. You might be gone next week. I hope you're not now. But you could be gone next week. You might live till you're 80. But you know what I mean? It's all gone. Anything you have now, you're really not going to get that happiness that you're looking for. That's for you. This is a testing time. We're all in the station waiting to go on the journey to get there. So you know what I mean? You weren't told anything. I don't know what it was. The masses were in Latin, so you went and that was it. I always believed. Thanks be to God. He said, I better give her a great faith, otherwise she's had it all together. There's no hope for it all. So I always believed in God. I see, when I was a young child, if anyone told me, why would you be lying to me? Why would you lie? You know, that's what even now, or even when I told my family like that, I had a spiritual experience, and they didn't believe, and I was very hurt because I'd say, but surely you wouldn't think I'd lie to you, that I would make up something. You're my brother, you're my sister, I wouldn't do that. Like, if you told me, I'd believe you, because I wouldn't imagine you should be lying to me. You know, so
so you had faith in God.
I believed that was God in the tabernacle, but I
you
didn't
have
know.
a real deep
know.
internal relationship or knowledge of God.
No, I didn't think you were supposed to go that
What about when you
far.
talk about the churches being full? Would you say that a large, sadly, majority of those people were kind of the same way?
Oh yeah, definitely,
yeah.
Definitely, and they were going because they were told. There was the innocence which they didn't see. There was a lovely innocence there, and they trusted. They trusted even though they didn't know. You know what I mean? They didn't know, and yet they trusted. And for things to happen then in the church afterwards, saying, oh, why would you do something like that? Because it's not okay, you're a man or you're a woman or whatever it is, you're weak, but you're representing God. How could you lie? How could you lie? So that's really dangerous. That's, you know, I mean, that's serious. And so anytime I went to Mass and I'd look up to the tabernacle, I always knew Jesus was in there. He was in there, definitely, without a doubt. And even to this day, that's it. Yeah. Nobody will tell me he's not there. So, but it was that, and I sang in the choir. So I was in the chapel all the time and all. And I loved it. I loved the atmosphere. I loved being there. But I really didn't know.
Was that where your music started, in the choir?
No, I think my mum said I was the quietest child. She used to have to wake me to see if I was alive. And then the minute she said, you did come blossom, and I was singing all the time. And we lived in the flats, and we lived on the 5th floor. And there was 68 stairs you had to go up. And I'd be running and jumping down. There'd be 10, and there'd be 5, and there'd be 6. We were great. We were like monkeys the way we jumped down the thing. And there was a great echo in the building, and I was singing all the time, going up and down. I loved all the singing, and I went in school. I was in all the operettas, and I just wanted to sing and dance. And then I was very good at gymnastics. And in the street, we used to call it, like down in this, we had it was a big blocks of flats, and in the middle was the playgrounds and all like that. We'd be in there. It was great in there, you know, it was terrific. I had a happy childhood that way. And I'd be doing splits and cartwheels, and we played, you know. There was no television or anything like that, and but you didn't talk about God, sort of thing, you know. I mean, you believed in God. Oh yeah, I believe in God. But if anyone asked you about anything about, and you never knew about the apostles. Oh yeah, was there 12 of those? Yeah. So nothing. You didn't really know.
Now, in your time there as a child, teenager in Dublin, was there any of the Protestant Catholic problems that were more up north, or in pretty much a Catholic environment?
Oh, it was very Catholic.
Yes.
Yeah. There was one Protestant family living in there. Some of the children were Catholic. Some of the children were Catholic. Some of them were Protestant. And one of the girls, Maureen, she was my best friend. You know what I mean? So no, you didn't sort of feel.
So in a sense, not only did it not come up amongst the Catholics, but
that should
Protestant
never
Catholic,
come up.
That stuff didn't come up either. You just played.
You just played. Because I think that's what's wonderful. And I can understand now why God says, unless you think like a child, forget it. You're not going to get in. And it's right. Heaven has to be like that. None of this. But he said, well, look, if you're not going to live with them here, you're definitely not going to live with them in my house. So you better get your act together. You know, you have to make up your mind now. It's no use going to Mass every day and Lord, I do this and Lord, I do that. And he says, okay, so-and-so who you hate, actually, I'll forgive them all right, Lord, but I couldn't live with them. So, you know, we're not going to live in it. So did you forgive? Is it really forgiveness? And or do you want it? I mean, you can give it. That you love this person. Oh, no, I don't want to love. You know what I mean? So he's wonderful. I think he's fantastic. And I love the truth. I just love the truth. I don't like pussyfooting around. I don't like I didn't go to him with baggage or anything like that saying, well, I've conditions sort of thing. And once I can do all this, then...
Let's... So there you are as a young Catholic, at least a believer in God, but pretty, other than that, maybe nominal. In other words, in terms of having a real on-fire commitment to God. But in the midst of that, your music starts. to become the center of your life?
Well, it was
how's
from
that happen?
school and everything like that, and different competitions I was in, singing and dancing. And then when I was 14, I got into the first band, a little rock and roll band. It's a 4-piece. And then we got 2 gigs. You know what gigs are, you know, the two gigs. And I got, I remember I got, what was it, 50 pence it was in those days, was it? I don't know what it'd be, half a dollar.
Half a dollar.
Half a dollar. There was 3 of those halves, so it'd be 150 I got for the night. And that was loads of money. I thought it was great. The idea, you know. And then I went on to that into, when I was 16, I went into another band, a bigger band, and they were, that was pop as well. It was all pop. And I was in that for about 6 months, and then I got into the big band, which was called the Cadets. That was mega altogether, and then I had hit records and all like that through
Talk a little bit about the Cadets.
It was a great era in Ireland, from the 60s, from the late 50s to the 70s. The show band era it was. They were show bands which had 8 people, 9 people in them, and we covered everything. There was 3 brass, there was a whole rhythm section. I was the lead singer, and I was really one of the only female singers in the top bands. There was no, they didn't really want female singers because, you know, the sex symbol out there, that brought all the women.
A lot of those big bands in that area, like the Love and Spoonful and the Dave Clark Five, the Beatles were all.
Oh yeah, all
men.
we used to do all their stuff.
Men. But like you said, they were the men.
They were all men. It was all men. The music industry was really geared to men. Though in the 60s in the British charts, the women were coming in like Cilla Black, Dusty Springfield, the whole lot. You know, we didn't get the Americans coming over.
Tula Clark, I remember.
Tula Clark, downtown and all that.
Right,
so I was doing all that stuff, and apart from that, we were doing a lot. We loved the country, the American country stuff. Down. Loved all that. My biggest hit was you have to know Kitty Wells. Kitty Wells in the country chart. She had a hit in the charts in 1954 with the day I gave my wedding dress away. I took that, and that's how people know me today. Is the day I gave my wedding dress away in 1964. It was massive. And I used to wear the wedding dress going around. The band were beautiful. They had all the naval uniforms. They were royal blue, all the gold braid and everything, and the fantastic caps. And you can imagine the women thought the men were just visions. You know what I mean? The white trousers and the white shoes, and I had the blue and white uniform as well. And I started. It was a trend then. It started. The back combing came out, and I had a beehive that height. I mean, it was big, and so you were famous for that as well.
You were with a well-known American singer that came over to Ireland.
Johnny Cash. I walk the line. He was great. He's a lovely, and he was a giant. Just looked on his shoulders that size, and he was huge. And we thought all the Americans were 9 feet tall. But you're big, you're tall. So we were over in Galway, and the poor man was dying with the flu. He was. The weather was dreadful. I don't know when it was. It must have been around October, November. He came, and June Carter. She was a dote. She was gorgeous. She was with him as well. So we were touring with him. And it was brilliant, you know.
So let me just ask you, as you're getting more and more in the net, what was the effect on your faith at the time?
Well, I mean, I just went to Mass every Sunday.
Oh, okay.
I was in the band, and I'd maybe come home at, we'd be driving, we used to do 5 hours on stage, and we were driving all over Ireland and took you the best of Europe. I was stationed in Dublin. If you were in Kerry, you were talking about 5 hours to get there. The roads weren't great. If you were in Donegal, the same. You didn't get off the stage until 2 in the morning. You were on from 9 till 2. We got a break of 20 minutes. Again, you got out and got home. You were driving into Dublin when people were going to work. So you were coming into town maybe to get home about 8 or 9 o'clock, you know, and then you might have to be up at 12 and then go on another journey. So that's all you were doing, bed to work. But I always made sure, I used to say to Pat, who was the leader of the band, Pat, will you stop down a Merchant's Quay, and I think I'll get 6 Mass down there, and I can walk up the hill. You could walk home then. I said, I'll walk up home. I lived in the flats. And I always got Mass. And he used to say to me, "What are you getting mass for? You right lula," he says, "you don't believe in all that thing, do you?" I said, "Oh yeah, I believe in God," but I still wouldn't have been able to sit down and say, "Well, look at Jesus said this or so-and-so said that." Or, I didn't know anything, He said, "You're stupid, you don't know nothing." I say, "I know God exists, and that's the main thing, and I get mass and I receive him, and that's it." That was it. But so it was grand. I went down. I got married then in '68. I met Jimmy. Jimmy was in the band. Jimmy was a lovely person. I mean, God handpicks them. He does. Trust me, he just picks them. And Jimmy was really a lovely person. So I was in the band about a year, and then I started going with him, and then we got married in '68. I left the band because, isn't it gas, in those days, you sort of, the band was saying to me, "Why are you leaving?" And but say, I want to become pregnant. See, I was a virgin. I was 25 at the time. And I said, I want to, but I become pregnant. You have to give up your job, because my mother and all like that, and all the women then, you gave up your job, you were a mammy, you were going to look after children. And so I left the band. They thought, there's definitely something wrong with her, He's so successful and all like that. So
was this after you had made that hit that you were talking about?
Oh yeah, all the hits. We had plenty of hits. There was
would
lots
have been
of
in
them.
the mid-'60s.
Oh yeah, it was
okay.
from
right.
61, Fallen Star was number one. 62 we started, and in 63 Fallen Star came out. That was the first one. That was a country number as well. That was number one in the charts as well. So we hit and then we had a big the album Golden Guinea, and that sold 75,000 at the time, which was an awful lot of LPs, So.
So this all happened. Then you get married. And
then I got married,
and
I
drop out of the band.
It was to drop out, and then I became pregnant. I was delighted, looking forward to all this, and didn't know anything about the facts of life really, or anything. We knew nothing. You were green. You weren't told anything. Your mother never sat you down and told you anything. Everything was a surprise, sort of thing. So I did, and I was only pregnant about 3 months, and the manager from the office, Tom Costello's office, he was our manager at the time, the office got on to me and said to me, "Would you like to do cabaret?" And I said, "Cabaret? Cabaret?" I didn't even know what was going on. At that time then, the cabaret scene became huge in the 70s It was going in the 60s when in all the pubs started opening up. They were huge, and
is that what you meant by cabaret? That now you're playing in the pubs rather than?
It would be. They asked me would I go in and perform there. And there were big entertainment places, and there was hundreds of them. We weren't into that scene. We didn't know it was there, so I went along, and then I started in that, and that just became mega as well, because, well, you were known, you were a name in any case, so it was easy to be, so I was on the best part of 7 nights a week if you wanted to. So that was it. I mean, just successful. And then in 1975, I got into the Gaiety. The Gaiety was the big theatre here, and they were, I'd never done theatre sort of thing, and they were auditioning for a huge big show. You ain't heard nothing yet. George M. Cohen. And an American director came over, and he was auditioning, and I remember I was talking to Noel Pearson. He's done My Left Foot and all like that with Jim Sheridan. I knew Noel very well, and I said to Noel, "God says, I know I'd love to be in that show. What is it?" He was after doing Jesus Christ Superstar, you see, and that was huge here, just mega, So, and everyone that was in the business was in it. But I hadn't been in that circle. So I remember I was doing a charity gig in another big theatre. It was the Olympia. And he was there, and I said, "Noel, I'd love you have a new show coming out. I'd love to audition for it, And he started laughing, and he said, "You wouldn't audition, you're too big." Say, "No, I'm not. Honestly, I'd audition for you. I'd be delighted to audition." And he was laughing, So now he said, "Everybody's going in for it, all, and from the theatre and the blah, blah, blah." I said, "I don't mind, no, but could I go in and just audition?" And so I remember it was in the Shelbourne Hotel on Stephen's Green, and the director was there, and it was gas, and I went in, and he was saying, "What are you going to sing?" I said, "I'll do Secondhand Rose." Yeah, he says, "Yeah, that's great. Father has a business." That was all that, and he laughed. And it was the part in the show was Georgia. She was sort of an Ethel Merman. "I've got rhythm, I've got music," that sort of thing. And so I was giving it the lash, and he was breaking his heart laughing. I was walking, and I was singing to him as if he was the audience. And then he said, "Have you got something else?" And I said, "Yes, I have." Do you know No Regrets? No regrets, no, I will have. And that was all. And he said, I didn't think I was going to get it. An old person rang me and said, "You're not going to believe this. You got the part." And I said, "What?" And everyone in the business said, "What? She's not in the theatre. How did she get that?" And blah, blah, blah. But that started me off in the theatre, and it was great. I enjoyed. But there was one side, it was an upside, but the downside, I became, that's when I fell into the adultery bit. So
because of the influence of the
well,
the
you saw
environment
things
of the
because
theatre?
you see in the band it was like being in a convent. I had they were like brothers, and they knew that I was very innocent and things like that, and they protected me no end. The boys in the band, you were just with them all the time. We didn't mix. There was no real social life. We went on holidays together and all. The band, so we were very enclosed. Was you weren't influenced by anything, they'd never swear, of course, and they'd never do anything like that when I was around. So I was very protected. I was very innocent. Even at home, my mum used to say, she's innocent and blah, blah, blah. She'd be all right, she'd be looked at. But this was a different ball game when you came in and you saw people, God, they were drinking. And I was a pioneer. I used to have the pin in the band. He used to say to me, "Wear the pioneer pin. That looks fantastic." And it used to look, when people
what
saw
is the pioneer pin?
The pioneer pin was,
you
don't know about it?
Well, some may not know. No.
It means you wouldn't drink for the rest of your life. You give up drink, and I took that. We took that when we were in school, you see, and so I said no, I don't ever want to drink. But then when I went into the thing, I started taking a little sort of drink, and men seemed nice and all. You knew these people, and then you start. That's when it happened, and it started fancying different people and one night stands sort of thing, and you didn't. It didn't seem that, but you knew it was wrong, but you didn't know enough. Knowing Christ, you wouldn't have gone within an ass's roar of anybody. It's so easy. That's why we should never judge anybody. Do you know what I mean? It was so easy to fall into that, and
if they don't have the formation to
no, you
understand.
don't. No, you didn't. I was ignorant. All I knew is
But this was the time this was when you had children, and
oh yeah.
You
because I had the children were born and all. Oh yeah, because I had first child Pamela in 79. In 69, a year after, and then I had the three. They were all young.
Before you got into the
in
theatre.
75, I went into the theatre.
Okay.
You see,
All right.
And so I was cheating on Jimmy all the time. And I thought I was having a ball. And people out there, you think, oh, you're reading the magazines and you say, oh, there must be people think you're at parties all the time. It's wonderful. And you're in papers. We used to be all over the papers, on the telly, on the radio and all like that. It's a load of baloney. It's a job. It's a job. And people dying to be there. I'll tell you, first of all, if you're lazy, forget about it. It's hard graft, work, sweat, losing weight, losing sleep, travelling, entertainment. You're seeing all the stars and all. That's what they do. It's hard old graft. The papers put them up to you have to go to this opening. Where did they gear and all? And half of them don't want to go.
I was going to say, a lot of them would prefer when you're
done
doing your work, you'd rather go home and have some relaxation.
It's all front.
Yeah.
It's all front. It's not that glam. Forget about it. It's not glam, show business. It's hard work. And
if you're going to be good.
You have to be. You have to work hard.
If you're going to be good, you got to work hard.
And you have to do what you're told. There's rules in that. Rules in everything. There's not a thing that you don't have rules in. You have to do this. You have to be there at a certain time. You have to be on stage at a certain. You have to look well all the time. You have to do everything. They tell you to go here. You have photographs taken here. You have to do that. You do it all. They own you. But I was willing to be. I didn't mind. I never found it a problem taking direction. And even when I went into the theatre and all like that, if someone told me do that, I did that all the time. Never deviated at all. Just did exactly what they told me to do. And
how long were you in the theatre?
Right up to
this
year.
So
we done a fantastic big. I was in all the pantos and everything at Christmas time. Pantos now, the Americans wouldn't understand that. It's Fantasyland, Cinderella, Snow White, all of those. You do that at Christmas time, and they're huge here and in England, and they'd be on for the best part of nearly 2.5 months. And they're in the big theatres, and that's great to be in there. You're big if you're in those places, and so it was in those, and I was in the commitments. I went and got a part in the commitments. I got into Man of No Importance. The one
into the commitments. What do you mean by the commitment?
The film.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the film The Commitments, you know,
Right.
and it was made here in Ireland. And a man of no importance, Albert Finney, he was a dote, he was. He's really nice. No wonder he's a huge, big star. And it was great. And one with Morgan Freeman and Robin Wright, you know, and Moll Flanders. So, and Against All Odds. So the Lord put me into little bits and all. He gave me a taste of all the different things. And so I thought I was flying, like, you know, and yet you knew there was something missing. You know,
What was the other part of your life, this, you know, the immoral part of your life, was that still growing during all this time, still happening during all that
it's still,
period?
yeah, right up to 1990.
Okay. What about your Sunday masses?
I know I stopped going there because I knew I was, you know, wasn't doing the right thing. And isn't it funny, in 1975 that happened, and in 1978, around 77, 78, I forget what it was, I became pregnant for someone. And that was a really horrific time. Now, I can understand now if someone becomes pregnant, or whether they're single or whether they're married, and they don't want to, and the abortion thing comes in on it. We didn't know anything about abortion, and then I didn't read magazines as such, or read into anything like that. I didn't know. I never heard the word abortion, and I didn't know what to do. I really didn't know what to do, and I was in a fierce state, and I just said to myself, I didn't want to tell anyone. And I can understand now when people say, I couldn't tell anyone, or what will I do? And so I just said, I'll have to tell Jimmy. And now if I was clever enough...
Had he been aware of this other side?
No,
of
what I
your
mean,
life?
I knew, I was reading the Cosmopolitan. I never read books. Only the books I read in school, and I left school when I was 14. The Cosmopolitan was the only book I read, and I remember on the back there was ads. I never read them. I just used to look at all the fashion. And at the back there was ads, and I remember there was a clinic, and you could go over there, and it was to do with this. And I remember I picked up the phone, and I said, the girl came on, she was real nice, you know what I mean? Oh yeah, I said, I'm pregnant, and I said, we know the situation. She said, all you have to do is come over here, and you'll be gone the next day, you know. I didn't even ask her what did they do, but when she was talking to me, this chill came all the way down, right from the head, came all the way down, and I sort of froze on the phone, and it was like, put the phone down. So I put the phone down, and I just totally forgot. I knew, something told me that this was wrong. I didn't know, but I knew it was wrong. But it was a real eerie, God, you think you're after stepping into a fridge or something. So I left it at that. I was crying non-stop. I didn't know what to do. Went to Jimmy, told him, and of course he being such a nice person, and he said, well, I don't want to rear anyone else's child, and you'll have to get rid of it some way or do something. So I said, okay, Sierra, I'll have to put you out on the, you know, the bags will go out in the street. So I was in an awful state. I was broken. I was distraught now. So the next morning, I remember I discovered just a little drop of blood in my pants. And I didn't know what that was at all. I didn't know I knew that shouldn't have happened. So I ran down the street. I went up to the doctor, and I told him. I said, "What's this?" And he said, "Well, I'll examine you." So he examined me, and he said, "You're not pregnant anymore." And I said, "I'm not pregnant anymore. How did that happen?" He said, "I don't know." He said, "You're very healthy. Did you fall, or did you get a bang, or did you overdo something, or hurt yourself?" Or I said, "No." And well, he says, "It's a mystery, I don't know, but you're not pregnant anymore." And so I ran, I couldn't believe it. I ran home to Jimmy and I said, "Jimmy, you're not pregnant anymore." He said, "How did that happen?" And I explained it. Wouldn't you imagine, I was so distraught. I mean, even as I said, I cry now when I think of it. I was so distraught. Afterwards, that was in 1977 or 8, and I went on to be an adulteress till 1990. So it came to 19, I was so successful all the way through the thing, and yet there was an emptiness, there was something missing. I never knew it was God. All the time in the theatre, Nobody ever spoke about God. I never heard anyone evangelizing. I never saw anyone on the television witnessing. I never saw fire that they're talking about today, this Holy Spirit thing. I just never saw it. And nobody spoke about God. No one. So you thought that was it. It's the way it was.
Where was Jimmy in all this?
Jimmy was at home, and he was still a good husband, and I fell out of love with him. I actually told him later on, and I said, I don't really love you, Jimmy, but I mean, I've no intention. What happens was I was vain, selfish, you name it, all of the things that were all there, but I didn't know I suffered from that. I didn't realize he didn't know about it or anything like that. But
can you be in the industry without that?
What?
Can you get through the industry without that long list of things?
I don't know. I can only speak for myself.
I
can only speak for myself.
I know young people that want to go in the industry, they see it as a great thing.
Oh no, it's so easy to, if you're on, you'll never be strong enough. Unless you have Christ with you, you just won't make it. You just won't make it. End of story, that's it. Because we're too weak. We're prone to these things, you know what I mean? We're drawn to it. And you want to be part of the herd. You don't want to look like, oh, well, I'm not doing this, I'm not with it, I'm not cool. Cool? You're not cool unless you're with Christ. You're really not. I mean, talking cool today, and I'd have to laugh. But to get back to what you were saying there, during that time, Jimmy was, I was just, I was very successful, but it was empty, and God has a time. There's no two ways about it. He has a time. Leave it in his time. It's the best time. Couldn't have happened any better. 1990, I was still flying in the Gaiety, Christmas time, and I went up to see my mother. And
that's interesting. I don't want to distract from that, but you're doing the Christmas shows year after year after year after year after year, not catching the point of what the show is all about.
Yeah, well, how do you mean
you're doing the Christmas shows about
Christmas
Jesus?
Show. No, it wasn't about Jesus. No, it'd be just Cinderella, and they're all fantasy things. It wasn't religious, nothing religious.
Okay, all right.
And I went 1990, the December. I went up to see my mother before Christmas, and I was during the show, and my sister was there. The way God now works it, He uses other people to do it. Kitty was there, and they didn't know the sort of life I was leading. You see, so Kitty was my oldest sister by 8 years, and she's very religious. And I didn't know she was very religious either, but she said to me, what do you do after the panto? And I said to her, what do you mean, what do I do? So she said, well, she thought I was probably in a prayer group or something like that, And I said, what do you mean? Well, she said, why don't you come over some Wednesday night to Father Aidan Carroll over in University Church on Stephen's Green? And I said, well, what do you do over there? She said, well, we're there for 3 hours. I said, what? 3 hours in the chapel? It's like, Kitty. And this is the way, and I cannot imagine anyone today, if they said, I'm 3 hours in the chapel, they'd say, oh God, give me a break. So she said, and I said, what else do you do? She said, we do 3 rosaries. Say, Kitty, I'd eat them first. Eat them first. I thought this was excessive, you know what I mean? What do we need all this praying for, So I forgot about it. But you see the way the word was put in, and God was really clever. He said, I'll give her an excuse. She'll have an excuse. And what happened after the panto, in the 3rd week in February, I wanted to get out of the house. So I thought, that place, what's next? Kitty, where's that place now again? Yeah, what time will it be over there? 7:30. Yeah, okay, see you then, bye. Over there, I thought I was going to go in and out, but God had something else. This was the day that the Lord had all dolled up into the thing. She brings me right up to the top of the chapel in the 2nd seat. And I said, Kitty, what are we sitting here for? You know what I mean? I wanted to sneak out, when it started. So I'm singing up there. She's a gorgeous singer. And her and a young girl, Marjorie, they used to sing for Father Aidan. This chapel was packed on a Wednesday night. And they all knew me. Me with a mini skirt up to here. And a real sinner, looked all the makeup and the hair all over the place, and I was looking around to say, what are all these people doing here on Wednesday night? I was saying to myself, they know something that I don't know, sort of thing. Now I sat there and it became a nightmare. I felt so uncomfortable. And then I start saying, I can't get up and walk out. Now, if I was cheeky enough and didn't care about people, I would get up and just walk out and didn't. No, but I was worried about what people would think of me. Eileen Reid, big name, and she's walking out. I wanted a false image to her. I wanted people to think I was good. And I was rotten to the core. I mean, sin, mortal sin piled, how the heart stayed in there, the soul was beyond me. I started to try and look up at the tabernacle and try to say I'm sorry, and it didn't work because it was only coming from here. And even though I knew that was Jesus in the thing, and it was terrible, it was a nightmare. Everyone got up to go to communion, and I said, I can't get communion. I was afraid I'd be struck dead if I went up to receive. So everybody got out to receive. And then I was worrying how I looked, the pride and all of this was coming into it, you know. And nightmare situation, to cut a long story. At the end of the 3 hours when I was going out, Kitty, of course, thought I had a wonderful time. She said to me, well, how did you get on? And did you enjoy it? I said, it was okay. Will you come back again? Oh, well, so wait now, Kitty, hold on. Let me get home. Let me get over this first. I went out and got into the car. And I sat there, and all of a sudden I was aware that I was a sinner. And I said, I was afraid to start the car. I was afraid I'd get killed going home and I'd go to hell or something like that. I was all confused. I didn't know where I was. And I got home, drove very carefully. I used to be doing 80 miles flying in a car, so I got home very easy. When I got home, Jimmy says to me, well, what was it like? Says it was a nightmare, I said. So you won't go back again? No, says I'm going back. There's something wrong here. There's something that I don't know about, and I'm going to suss it out. I want the truth. Why are all these people going, did you know about that? These people going to mass, and I said, no, I'm going. I'm just going back. My whole life, I said, bang, put it on halt. I'm not going out to anyone, focusing on this. Every Wednesday I went over to Father Aidan, listening to what he was talking about. He was talking about the Bible. Blah, blah, went home after a month, said, Jimmy, go out and get a Bible. How do we never have a Bible? Why does our mothers and fathers, nobody talks about Bibles? This is all supposed to be great news. No one is they're all keeping it to themselves. They're all very selfish. He went out, bought the Bible. I was never in bed before 5 a.m, ever, in all those years. 11 o'clock, up to bed. Jimmy was sitting there, I was sitting here. I had this Bible in my hand that I'd never read in my life. I remember staying over in hotels, and they had Gideon Bibles in hotels, and I opened one and they were Thou cometh and goeth. I said, oh, that's Shakespeare, isn't it? And put it down. That's all I ever knew about a Bible. I didn't know where to start. Something in my head, because he was after being talking about the New Testament. I said, we started the New Testament, where is it? Jimmy couldn't believe this. He was looking at, I thought, what's happening here? I wanted to find out. And I got to Matthew. I started reading Matthew, bang, into a few pages, bang. It was like Jesus jumped out and said, Eileen, this is your life. And that's where my conversion came in. I knew when I was reading that, it was just truth was coming down into me. And I said to Jimmy, I laughed. And I turned to Jimmy and he just said, you know something? I said, this is all true. He says, yeah, I know. I said, why didn't you tell me? Why didn't somebody tell me? So I read that book until 5 o'clock that morning. Got into bed again. 5 o'clock the next morning. I was reading that book, and then I said, I'm asking questions. Well, this Holy Spirit around says, Holy Spirit. I waited until they were all gone out of the house. I went down to the kitchen. I'm not the full children. But I want the truth. I love the truth from people. And so I said, you needn't talk. I mean, I know you won't be talking to me, but I'm asking questions. You better answer me. I said, for instance, what about Mass? This Mass seems to be, I don't know much about it. It's all in Latin, and nobody ever talked to me about it. And well, like that came into my head. Say you had once a week, what would happen? And I answered out. I was saying, well, you'd fade away fairly fast, Athletes, they don't win Olympic medals for what? For nothing. What happens? This was all coming into my head now. I wouldn't be clever enough to be thinking of anything like this. If they trained only once a week, there's no gold medals. What you put into it, and you are what you eat as well. So, okay, I said. So we're talking about the Eucharist. That's it. Every day. I got confession. went to Mass every single day. There was one day I sat in the chapel in Clarendon Street and I went to the first Mass and I sat there for 9 Masses. 9 Masses. And I said, how are people not excited? The priests are walking out and they're not saying, hello, all you wonderful people. Do you know what's going to happen here? In case it's your first time. Do you know what's going to happen here? Now I'm here. I could be a paedophile. I could be the worst sinner in the world, which I am a sinner. But this is Jesus himself, persona Christi, standing here because he's the only one who can offer this up. We're talking humility. Would we come up here, God, imagine God coming down to be a tiny piece of bread. And we know where he's coming, and now he's saying, I want you to get lower. How low can you get? How can you grovel? Because he said, if it was you, what would you do if you had God and all that? What they're all doing is their big palaces and they're this and having people. And he said, just tiny little. It's so brilliant. It's so perfect. How blind are we? I went and I realized that he showed me things then. He showed me things. Things happened to me. I couldn't believe. But you see, what I'm glad I wasn't well educated. I'm glad I was nothing. I'm glad I didn't know anything because I'd no baggage. When I spoke to him and I said, he answered me like that. Give me all these things. Why? Because I didn't go with baggage. I had a heart that was like that. And I just wanted to know. I didn't go with conditions. And I wasn't being, I have my little life to live and I'll try and put you in. I'll try and fit you in somewhere, you know what I mean? No. I want the truth, the whole truth and nothing but the truth. So help me God. And I got it. I got it right between the eyeballs. And it's true. There's no two ways about it. And especially the Eucharist. We're going Our Lady is appearing in all of the apparition sites and she's saying, do you know where I want you? You're coming to me, she says. I'm not God. I love her. She's fantastic. I love her. And she's saying, there it is.
Yeah,
it's
go to my son.
him. And she said, you're looking for miracles here. Go to Mass. The priest should be saying, there's no fire in the church. There's none. This upper room thing is supposed to happen every day. People should be bringing their lame in, bring the priest should be saying, who's sick, who's dying, who's that? Okay, whoever's at home and they can't come, we're going to pray that they can get out of bed. Anyone sick here, don't be afraid. You're afraid to walk up in case. Do you know what we're all afraid of? Walking up and doing that and say, Lord, I love you, in case people will be saying, she should be put behind walls. That we're all afraid. But you see, if you come out and you say it and it happens, and it will. The cures are at the Eucharist, and that's Jesus himself. Jesus Christ himself. Anybody who tells you, I know, anyone who says to you that that's not God, they're lying. End of story. I hate to say it. It sounds, they're lying. This is God. This is God in the little host. And we should be bowing down before him, go and talk to him, go the way I'm talking to Marcus. Say, Jesus, do you know what? Mary is sick and all like that. And the priest shouldn't be afraid to say, Mary, you are something. Go up and you kneel down in front. But Father, I'm after been going for the last month. Great, go for another month. And he may not cure, but he'd be curing it in another way. You don't know what way, don't particularly want. You say, what do you want, Jesus? Do you want me to walk, or do you want me to see, or do you want me to hear? Or do you want my heart to be open? And it's far better. Your heart open, you're better off not walking, you're better off not seeing, and you're better. If this, you have everything. It's only for a little short time. You're only in the station for a little while. You only have to carry this baggage. That's what he's talking about the cross. But he's saying, you see, with all this hurt and this, he's done this on me and all like that, he's saying, that's what I want for you. You'll change the world with that. I did it with that. So he said, would you the pain? He said, what? Because what can you offer me? He said, give me nothing. And I feel he was saying, if you offer this little pain up when it comes, and I know you're annoyed and you'll give out and you'll curse and all. I do that myself, time you get annoyed about stupid things. But he said, when you offer it up and you say, offer it up for your family, people saying, oh, my son or my daughter, don't be worried about it. Don't be worried at all about it. He said, you come to me, have a chat with me. Because he said, I can do things like that. And in my time, I do it. Don't say you want it happening
That's right.
tomorrow. Can we? Can we?
That's what
can you
trust
do it
in,
tomorrow?
that's what trust in God's all
It's
about.
trust. Then he said, "I know what you believe."
Let me ask you this. Here you are, what you were, and then now what you are. How did that affect those that knew you before? How about the devil's going to come in there and try and say, wait a second, you weren't supposed to go there yet, so there's going to be a battle. Did you experience that struggle in the industry?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, they were laughed at and not, but I didn't mind. Brush that off like water. I mean, I knew what I was doing. You're not going to anyone saying you're wrong. You don't do that.
Right.
You don't. I was.
But
I was
they would
there.
have seen the change.
They all did. Yeah, they all did.
So how are you received now with your new faith?
They do. They respect you. You know what I mean. But I don't know. I don't know what people think behind. I don't mind. I don't care. You know. And I can understand. There's an excuse for it because they don't know maybe the little bit that I know. But it doesn't make me better than them. Do you know what I mean? I'm not better than, I'm not holier than anyone. God is saying, you know, I scraped the barrel with you. You know what I mean? I really came down low. So no, you don't get any uppity things.
But because of that, you were a unique witness then.
Oh,
and because of the success that you had,
well,
that God allowed you to get to that level so you could have this
success that I
witness.
have, most people want.
Yeah.
It's not worth it. It's no use to you. It's really no use to you. It's nothing, it's only passing. And with your records or the fame or anything, you won't stand in front of God and say, guess who I am? He said, you wouldn't be there only for me. I made you, I gave you the talent, I gave you, and you abused it. You could have used and lost people through your way-haying and your this, and this is what you should be doing, and poor unfortunate people lost and all. No, he says, what I love about it, what I want to say here is, Jesus Christ loves everybody. It doesn't matter whether you're Muslim, Jew, atheist, Catholic, Protestant. He wants, and we shouldn't be offended by love. Someone loving you shouldn't take offense. Jesus is saying, tell everybody. That word tell, not force, not badger them in, not say they have to. No, they don't have to. You can go and do whatever you like if the law allows it. Give to Caesar what's Caesar's, give to God what's God. Christ is saying, tell everybody I love them. I did die for them. I rose from the dead. And it doesn't matter. Forget about their sins. Don't say, oh, well, you know, I know. You're sorry. It's ridiculous that you can just say, I'm sorry from the heart. And he said, oh, that's grand, fine, now we'll get on with it, right? And I remember a young girl came to me in the business and she said to me, God, Eileen, you know, I'd have an awful lot of catching up to do if I said, catching up? What are you talking about? Catching up. You know, and that's why the gospel there yesterday was fantastic about the vineyard and the ones coming in last. And what I think is great about the ones who go to Mass, don't ever think because you go to Mass every day, and which I do, I love it, and that you're guaranteed a place, you know, and the other should. I think isn't it wonderful, a sinner who's led a life of debauchery and whatever it is, and on their deathbed, that they get a conversion. Could you deprive them of God? I mean, how could you say, oh, well, I deserve? You don't. The minute you say, oh, I deserve, you don't. Stick them down into hell. Definitely. Put them down into hell. They didn't deserve it. They didn't know Christ. It was all self. That's what I was into, self. The greatest thing that happened to me is you're blind. You get a new sight when you come over to Christ. You see far deeper things. I never knew I was proud, vain, selfish, you name it, all the things that are wrong. He started turning the mirror around on me. And that was really... I couldn't believe that when I started to see myself. I said, he said, you're looking out always. You never thought there was anything inside. So it's this inner sight that you get. And it's, I said to him, I just want to decrease and you increase. And when people are talking to me, I am not, but you live in me, like Paul says, you're talking to Christ. I said, I want to be another Christ. Because I'd be a dead loss to you. I'd be a hindrance to whatever you're doing. I want to vanish and you just appear.
You know, that attitude in itself, the fact that you can say that with such heart, is evidence of the conversion. You know, that's what we want for people, to have that mirror turned around on themselves so they can see.
It's hard now.
And our goal is not because we want them to grovel, it's because we want them to recognize where they are so they can put that behind and be open to God.
And raise up.
Yes.
And start to move up and live. It's wonderful. You're never disappointed.
Now, what now? How does it affect your your career now. I mean, here
I thought I was finished with the career, and I'm 62, and I mean, he's putting things my way. He keeps bringing, there's more things, you're not giving up, and I just say, Lord, whatever you want me to do, I'll do. And you can't be disappointed. It's just, as I said, and Our Lady as well, I say, I consecrate myself to Jesus through Mary. And I hold her hand all the time and say, Mother, you know the way you raised Jesus, I listen to you, because I used to listen to my mother all the time. And I'd say, Mother, she was fantastic. I mean, Mary is brilliant. I mean, she's brilliant. And I go to her and talk to her, and I do the rosaries all the time. The 3 rosaries, the 4 a day if I can get them, all the time.
What about young people who are watching that are drawn to the industry? What words of encouragement?
I think get Christ before you go into the industry. You really need him. You really need him in the business, because there are people who are into money. Money is the God. And you will be asked, because when I was asked to do a big television program here, and it was a reality TV show, and I said, unless I can get Mass on Sunday, I'm not doing it. And they brought in a priest. And I got the Mass on Sunday. I said, otherwise, I don't want the thing. It just means nothing to me. Means nothing. I don't want it. Fame, if you have to turn down Christ, forget it. It's not. He'll be testing you. So it's great to be able to say, no, I don't want it. Do it, I'm telling you. And you'll get something far better. He did. He just wham, and someone tried to keep me out of the business for a long time. That person was gone then, and when it was, but the time was right.
Well, you know what St. Augustine said, that when you sing, you pray twice. There's something about the beautiful aspect of music that allows us to take our hearts to God. And is your faith having or is it part of your musical performance?
Yeah, people
now?
in the business know that you're Christ is in your life. Everyone in the business know. And when you go in, and I pray, and I pray during the show, and before the show, and after the show, and give thanks to God. And for all the people, I say, Lord, won't you send your Spirit? Send your Spirit upon the whole place. Bless everyone here, their families, the show, that nothing happens. And I remember a director of the Gaiety, an owner of the Gaiety, said to me one day, he says, do you know something, he says, which is very strange. Anytime I walk into the Gaiety now, he said, I get this peace. I never experienced that ever in my life, he said, and there's something hanging over the place, he says. I get a peace. I don't know what it is. I knew what it was, though.
Jesus says, to him who is given much, much is required. And I think about that in your own career. God has given you much, and he's given you a recognizability amongst people because of what you were able to accomplish. But because of that position that you were given, now you have, a young person would not have been able to change the atmosphere of the Gaiety, except you've been able to be recognized for who you are. Not for yourself, but for what you can do in pointing to Jesus.
You must grovel all the time in front of him. Really keep down there that it's him that does everything. People saying, aren't you good? And I keep saying to them, no, I'm not good. I know what I was like. It's Christ in me that you see. That's good. As he himself said, no one is good, only God. And that's the goodness that's in you. Any bit of goodness is Jesus working, is doing the thing, because I have to fight off me all the time. Which is, it's brilliant. Everyone should have it. Everyone should be told about it, and then you can take it or leave it. But he'll remind us, you were told, I did come to you.
Like you said earlier, he doesn't force us, he offers it. And so the best way that we can reach out to our family and friends is to be praying for them, and to tell them the message and love them.
You're praying for my family and all. I just leave in the Lord. I'd say, you know the situation. I'll pray about it. And you can see the difference.
Eileen, thank you very much. Thank you for sharing your story, and our prayers are with you. You should continue to have a witness in your continued success in music. All right, God bless you. And thank you for joining us on the journey home. I hope this inspirational episode has been encouragement to your faith. When we do these programs, we don't know where you're at, but I believe Eileen is in fact talking to someone out there that may in fact going through the same issues. And I want you to consider that a touch from God to encourage you to come back to Christ and experience all that he has to give you. God bless you. I'll see you again next week.